Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Stephen Vantassel here, wildlife control consultant, giving another episode of Living the Wildlife. Hey, I just recently passed my drone license. I am now eligible to get licensed for commercially flying drones. So I thought I would talk a little bit about that today because some wildlife control operators, maybe even pest control operators, are thinking about using drones. These are, flight drones, not the ones that move on the ground. I'm not talking about those. I don't think those are under FAA rules because they don't fly. So I'm just referring to the drones that would fly, and they're actually called small unmanned aircraft systems. So UAS is kind of the technical term for them. So you have to have a license in order to fly drones commercially. So let's talk a little bit about the process here. I'm not going to talk about what drone you should purchase or whether you should have a drone. I'm just simply saying if you're looking to use a drone in your business, what's the process for how to get licensed? That's what I'm going to talk about here because I'm still learning on this side, but I'm learning it firsthand. And it has certainly been an interesting journey, to be sure. So anyways, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, they regulate, obviously, the airspace in the United States. So if you're in Canada, you would need to deal with your Canadian counterpart of that agency up there. So I'm only talking about American airspace about when we're talking about drones here. So if you're listening from outside the U.S., my apologies. What I'm going to talk to you about today really doesn't have much relevance for you. So we're just talking about people that are looking to fly drones commercially in the United States. So the first question you have to ask yourself is, are you going to use your drone commercially or as a hobby? And I'll let you decide how that works out primarily. But the point is if it's part of your business and you're getting paid for doing the work, even if you're not being paid specifically for using the drone, but it's still part of your business, it's a commercial drone. You just don't want to play around with this. I mean, if you're playing with a drone, you're with the kids and you're just out, joyriding around, taking pictures of things and flying it around, that's a hobby. If you're using it as a business and part of your business model, that's commercial. You need to have a license. So step number one, if you're going to get a drone, everyone, at least at this time, and I'm talking in 2019, everyone who has a drone, whether it's a hobby drone or a commercial drone, you need to register your drone with the FAA. It's $5. I think it lasts for 2 years. You have to go in the FAA, register your drone, whether it's a hobby drone or whether it's a commercial drone used for commercial use. Okay, so that has to be done regardless. I'm sure many people aren't doing it, but if you're going to be doing it commercially, you'd better do it. Okay. So now, if you're looking to become a pilot, you have to pass what is called the 107, the Part 107 certification. Now, essentially, what Part 107 is, it's dealing with unmanned aircraft systems, drones. You're becoming a pilot, and you're going to be learning a lot of the things, or should I say you're going to be tested on. You're going to be tested on a lot of material that a manned pilot has to know. So this is called the knowledge-based test. So when you're becoming a manned plane pilot, you have to pass a knowledge test. Well, the drone test is based on that manned aircraft knowledge test. Now, obviously, a manned pilot has to also demonstrate flying competency. Now, they don't require us to have pass competency tests in terms of our ability to handle the drone, but we do have to pass the knowledge-based test. And so let's talk a little about that. So when you're interested in becoming a drone commercial pilot, you have to get this license. It costs $150 to take the exam. And you would sign up at a licensing center that would typically be located near an airport. If you're near a major airport, because it's proctored. You can't just go in and do this online without someone watching. You have to go to various testing stations to get licensed. So before you even begin to do that, you've got to start studying. So you're going to do a Google search on FAA Part 107. So FAA is one word, part is the second word, 107, third word. You're going to put that into your Google search or whatever search engine you're using, and you're going to look at the FAA fact sheet information, and it's going to tell you what you need to do. So it's going to have some things you can download there, and there's going to be a pilot's handbook, and you're going to download this information. There's going to be other materials there, and you're going to start reading and learning how to prepare for the test. So what does the test basically cover? The test covers how to read a sectional chart, which is interesting in and of itself. This is the chart that tells you what airspace you're going to be flying in. It's going to teach you how to read weather reports called METARs and TAFs. These are, it's almost like reading a foreign language because of all the abbreviations that they use. You'll learn how to read those, because when you're doing commercial pilot, there's a lot of rules that you need to follow. Let me list a few of them for you. You can only fly your drone during daylight hours 30 minutes prior to sunrise to 30 minutes after sunrise. And then you have to have, when you're flying in those 30-minute periods, you have to have anti-collision lights on that are able to be viewed for 3 statute miles. If you're flying, you can only fly when visibility is 3 statute miles. You can only fly in unrestricted airspace unless you have permission. This means if you're near some major airports and you want to do an inspection, the house that you're working with may be in restricted airspace. Drones, so you have to know that. That's why you have to learn how to read the charts. You have to keep your drone underneath a ceiling of 400 feet above ground level, or no more than 400 feet above the highest object. So if you're doing inspecting a 1,000-foot aerial tower, you can go 400 feet above that tower, assuming that you have permission to fly in that particular airspace. You have to make sure that you have to have a plan for where you're going to land it. You have to keep records about maintenance, because there's now liability involved. You're not supposed to be flying over heavily populated areas or where there's crowds without some sort of a plan in case something goes wrong. You have to maintain visual eye contact with your drone. You can't just simply send it around a building and not have your eyes on that particular drone. There's a lot to it. I don't want to make it sound more than what it actually is, but it's not just simply going to a store, buying a drone, and using it. It's sort of like driving a car, right? I mean, there's a lot of things involved with driving a vehicle that you need to know about to do it safely and where there's no problems. So how do you prepare for this test? I already talked about some materials from the FAA. You'll want to read that. There's a lot of YouTube videos on preparing for the Part 107 exam. View as many of them as you would like. Keep some, they're helpful. I'm not trashing them here. I'm saying that they're helpful. I just want to give one caution. Be careful about how old they are, because the FAA continues to modify the test. What is the test? The test is 60 questions, multiple choice. You have 3 options. It's not a 1 out of 4 options, only three options. And you have to get a 70% in order to pass. So far, it doesn't sound too scary, right? But I'll tell you, having just taken it, some of the questions are tricky. I thought I studied pretty aggressively. I was amazed at the number of questions that I had no idea where that information was. So, just truth in advertising. I'm not here to brag. I was fortunate enough I got a 90 on the test. But I'll be frank with you, I don't know how I did that. I thought it would have been lower than that, okay? There were several questions that I had no idea where that information was from. So how did I prepare for the test? Well, let me give you some insight on how I did it. I was referred to a particular YouTube video, which I thought was pretty good. Let me give you how to find it. Do a search in YouTube for the FAA Part 107 Drone Cert, C-E-R-T, by Tony and Chelsea Northrup, Northrup. If you just do a search for drone test, he'll come up because his is one of the most chosen videos. I mean, he's got, I think, over 100,000 views. It's about an hour and 45-minute summary prep class for the test. Very good, very well done. It's getting a little dated, however, because he talks about learning the various ways to use air pilot language, like, Foxtrot, Quebec, as ways of doing the letters, and I didn't get tested on any of that. So his video, but nevertheless, he has a lot of helpful information. It's still valuable, and it doesn't cost you a thing. Worthwhile. There are others that you can certainly view, but understand if you're as technical or precise as I tend to be, you are going to notice that sometimes you're going to see some contradictions. Like one person will say hobbyists don't need to get their drones registered because the FAA changed that rule. Okay, so understand that one instructor speaking at a different time, maybe something contradictory with what someone else said. If that sort of thing really bothers you, like it does me, then you're going to need to pay very close attention to the time when that video was done. And you're going to want one that's been done in the same year, most likely, as the time you're going to be taking the test. If you're able to overcome some of that concern, then obviously looking at a lot of the videos are going to help reinforce key ideas, because you have got to learn how to read the charts. You've got to learn how to read the weather reports. And there's going to be a bunch of other questions in there as well. So what I did was I looked at several videos. Sometimes I looked at them twice. You're going to be taking notes. Because you're learning a whole new world here that's not normal for most of us who aren't aircraft pilots. But I went and took the time to study under a paid program where I paid someone to tutor me. And so the program that I used, and I don't make any money on this, so if you're wondering, it's just what I used. I felt it worked for me. It might work for you. It's called RemotePilot101.com. Let me repeat that, RemotePilot101.com. Now, it cost me, my job, $150 to take the course. And it was about probably at least 15 hours of training. Excuse me. So one of the things that I liked about it was he talks not only about what you need to pass the test, which is important. Obviously, that's what you got to pass the test. But he also gives you insight on how to do the record keeping and some of the legal issues that you're going to have to think about when you're using your drone. The instructor is an actual manned pilot instructor, and then he's done this video training course, and then he updates it. And so you'll have a video, and then maybe there'll be another video, and sometimes you'll think he'll say you're ready for the quiz, and then there's no quiz because he has another video inserted because they keep updating it. The other beauty of this training is that once you pay your fee, you have it for life, because every 2 years you have to recertify to maintain your commercial license. So what he does is, if once you've taken his class, you're able to come back in and get a refresher at no additional cost. So if you're going to be serious about your drone work and you're thinking about this is going to be something long term, then you don't have to just keep paying for this training. They're going to keep updating it over time so that you learn how to pass the test when you take it the second time. So what happens if you fail? Well, if you fail, you're out your $150 and the time it took you to take the test. I didn't mention this already. You have 2 hours to answer those 60 questions. If you fail, you have the ability to take the exam again in 2 weeks. That's as soon as you can take it. You'll have to re-register again with your testing agency, and then take that test again and pass. Again, there is a fairly high passing rate, but you have to take this seriously. You are learning a whole new world. Things like B airspace, C airspace, D airspace, E airspace, and G airspace. You're going to be learning about different types of fog, weather, what cumulonimbus clouds, the stages of thunderstorms, wind shear, standing lenticular clouds. So there's going to be a lot of terms that you're going to need to memorize. And by the way, even when I did all this studying, I still had questions, as I said before, I didn't know about. One of the questions I got hit with was, if you bought a drone that was registered in another country and you bring it to the U.S., what do you have to do? Well, none of the reading that I did or studying that I did that I come across that. Maybe I forgot it. I don't know. It just didn't ring a bell to me. So it looked to me like completely brand new. And I'm looking at this and like, oh my gosh, where do I get the answer for this? Well, it turns out that you need to register it here in the United States and cancel the registration, I believe, elsewhere. I think that's what I answered on the questions. I'm trying to do this from memory. So the point is that even when you get questions wrong, again, no one cares, right? You pass or fail. So, but you do want to make sure you put your time into taking the class, doing your reading. I spoke to one gentleman. He didn't take one of these online training courses. He just studied the video. I think he studied another video or two that was out there. He found an online test. The FAA has an online test. I wasn't able to find that one. And you do some practice tests, and then he just went in and took the exam and passed. There you go. So you may not need to do all this extra work. But if it's something you're interested in doing, look into it. Make sure you contact your insurance company to talk about getting insurance for drones, or there are other insurance companies out there that will also insure your drone. And sometimes they'll do it by time, so that you only have to buy insurance for the limited period of time that you're going to be using it. Because again, when you're starting to use it commercially and something bad happens, like it goes through a window, plate glass window, or it crashes on someone's BMW, you're going to need to have a way to pay for all that. Hope that's helpful for you. I'll probably have some more updates about drone work because once I get my license in the mail, I'm going to be looking forward to playing with the drone that I have, and I'll have much more to say about this down the road for you. But thanks for listening. Again, I'm Stephen Vantassel, Wildlife Control Consultant. Would love to get feedback from you. I've gotten some already, but wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.